Welcome back to Breaking Bullying. In this episode, we will hear from a woman who has faced severe cyberbullying after her appearance on a YouTube game show. We'll get into it after I hit this music. Joining me this week is writer, performer, a poet, and an anti bullying advocate, Star Stone. Star, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Star, what happened? Like, first, how did you get involved with this YouTube game show, and what led to this backlash that you received afterwards?
Yeah, so I was living in Los Angeles, I'm an actor, so I was looking at a casting call. I was performing at Upright Citizens Brigade. I don't know if you're familiar.
I've heard of it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so comedy, improv, sketch comedy. So I was performing there, and a friend of mine sent me a casting call essentially. And I felt like if it's coming from UCB, a friend from UCB, referring me to this casting website, like it's probably going to be comedy, it's probably going to be fun, or I just, I sort of trusted that, right? So I read this casting call for this. At the time, it was just sort of like seeking vegans. Like it didn't really have much information. But when I read the casting call, I was immediately interested because I had so many years of experience, not only as a vegan, but just living, breathing in the wellness industry, meaning like I started working within the wellness industry. So I thought, well, as an actor, that sounds great. I was not actually vegan at the time. I just thought from an acting perspective,
Okay.
could do this, right? Like it's something I could be cast in. So I reached out and I had a phone call with the director. And based on my conversation, it seemed like we were moving forward. There was not a whole lot of information about the show. On the phone call, she did go over like the meet that it would be on YouTube and the channel to check out on YouTube. So that was sort of like basic information. But yeah, I was cast from there, in retrospect, I'm just recognizing as I'm sharing this with you, it really was sort of my first time, I think, doing anything like this. So I have a theater background and I hadn't really put myself out there for anything that was not either stand up comedy, sketch comedy, or theater, meaning like live performance. So this was my first time doing a project that was going to be for social media. And I didn't really know what to expect. And sort of the day of was really when I got more information, even about what we would be doing. And I really detail this in my show. In my show, Villain Era, I talk about the process of arriving to set and recognizing I don't really know what I'm getting involved in. So there's many layers to this process of realizing I signed up for something and I just sort of trusted that it would go well. I didn't really do my fact check. I didn't really, I'm trying to take some responsibility here. Like I didn't really know what I was getting involved in. So we shot it, and there would have been no way I could have known that it would have had the response that it had. 17 million views on YouTube,
Yeah.
and the producers, the team, you kind of used my performance and edited it in a way that created a narrative around being a villain or being a bully, which, we filmed for a certain amount of time. But what ended up happening was that they did take out other people's voices and interactions, and they sort of streamlined my words and my sentences together in a way that definitely paints a picture that I was a certain archetype, that I was like a villain
Yeah.
or I was a bully. And they left out a whole lot of content with other people talking in between me talking, or other people were talking essentially, but they kind
Yeah.
of so the end result was that I looked aggressive, like an aggressive competitor on the show. And after that, I was harassed, bullied, stalked, and threatened for over 5 years.
Wow. Are you okay with naming the show that you were on?
Yes. So the show is by Jubilee Media and it was called Odd Man Out. And I believe it was their first one of this series of the vegan series, because they did
Okay.
more after this. It's so vegans versus meat eaters. And if people are not familiar with this concept, it's supposed to be silly. It's supposed to be a
Yeah.
fun show where people get together and they try to find the non-vegan mole, kind of like Netflix's The Mole. Like you have to find the person who's not. it was supposed to be I thought it was just gonna be silly and fun. The
Yeah,
concept is silly.
so I watched that. I watched your episode, and to me, I didn't understand one why people were attacking you because how I saw it is you were playing the game. You were the one out there asking all the questions, trying to get people to slip up because the whole goal of that show was to discover who is non-vegan. So
Mhm.
if you don't ask questions, how are you going to find out? So I didn't quite understand where the why people had a pick on you.
Mm.
Did you ever kinda understand why they targeted you? Maybe because you got
Yeah.
most of the airtime during the episode, but to me, I thought you just played the game, like, that's how you should play the game, ask questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I believe the director in my memory said to us was like to ask questions. I could have sworn like it's been so many years, but
Yeah,
I'm feeling like that was something that was shared with us so that like we needed to find out information. So I feel like that's true what you're saying. But why did people come for me on the internet is the great question, right? There's so many ways to approach that answer. It's like well, one, people need an outlet for their own anger. I'm a woman and I was aggressive. I was
you were more assertive. I would say assertive. You were a play your job was to play a game 'cause
Mhm.
you would win money if you found out who the meat eater was, so you were
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. You're playing the game.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think, but I in terms of why, I don't know that people felt for Brandon. People wanted to side with him. And I always go back to if the roles were reversed. If I wasn't the one getting the most screen time, if I wasn't the most assertive or competitive and he had been, would anyone have said a thing about his performance or the way he was behaving? And would I have even gotten any sympathy at all being because I just go back to the gender roles around like who's allowed to be viewed as assertive and competitive in
Yeah.
like culturally, socially speaking.
Yeah. So, and if you wanna go back and see that video, you went by the name Aaron at that time, and now you go by Star Stone. What was, like, your first initial reaction when you saw, like, the first hate comment come up?
So it definitely didn't happen slowly. It was all at the same time for me. So I don't even in this moment, I'm having a hard time remembering the first time it like that I knew it was gonna that it was happening. I honestly don't remember. I think I just like the most I remember was it just happening all at once
Yeah.
to where I couldn't keep up. I was not even sure what to do in a situation like that. I just remember that my Instagram had, you know, all these new followers and messages and comments. And in my memory, it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And same on
Wow.
YouTube, but in YouTube, it was in the thousands.
Yeah, I can't remember what the number was in comments on YouTube, but there's a lot. I looked through some of
I
them.
stayed yeah, I stayed in my show. I wonder I try to remember the exact number that I say in the show. It's actually a line, like 297,000 comments or something like that.
Oh, you know what? I will look it up right now 'cause I got my
Yeah,
YouTube
let's look it
pulled
up.
up. Look it up. It was 6 vegans and one oh, it pulls up right away. Um, so you had oh, I gotta type in Aaron with that search. Maybe I'll get it here. 6 vegans, 1 man. Okay, here we go. 5 years ago, 17 million views. Of course, on YouTube, you get commercials. Um, stupid commercials. I'm not paying extra to get rid of them. So 129,000 comments. That
Yeah,
is crazy.
yeah, and I just wanna say that I don't know if that number is correct. I remember that there was a and maybe I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that the original video was posted and that there was more, and then I feel like it was reposted or something. I
Okay.
just remember I'm not totally clear on that because again, it's over so many years, but I could have sworn there was like another video that had more, but maybe. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter now, but
Um, I guess I do give Jubilee credit. They did kinda stick up for you a little bit in their comments.
I have to say no, and
No? Okay.
Absolutely
Maybe
not.
they just made a
No.
one statement, that was it, because, I mean, they could have blocked comments.
It's a loaded that is a very and I would
Okay.
be happy to share more, and I do talk about it in my show as well.
Yeah,
I was not supported
really.
at all. Yes.
Yeah. How did this affect you, like, mentally?
That's a big part of my journey over the last 5 years is taking care of myself and my mental health. It affected my mental health in a big way. One being that I didn't trust anymore my identity
Yeah.
because it's really hard when an entire universe on social media thinks that you're one way and then you really question yourself, am I really this way? Is there something within me that um that I'm not aware of? What did I do wrong? How did I attract this? In what way did I what was I going through at the time that manifested this? How did I end up having such a perception of me by so many people that I don't identify with, that I don't align with? I've always been the opposite. And people who know me, my good friends, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't e I think I mean, what I stand for is the opposite of what I'm being portrayed as. All of
Yeah.
my values, everything, how I've chosen to live my life. So it's like it was just a big like, is this who I am? Like, so I had a identity crisis for a bit, depression, and my physical health suffered from that. I mean, I felt like I had to isolate myself. What happens when one of your coping mechanisms is to um and take yourself completely remove yourself from a situation, which I did. I had to cancel, I closed all my social accounts for years,
Wow.
years. And what that does is then that actually takes away some of the joy that social media gives you, right? Your connection to your friends, figuring out what's going on in the world, expressing yourself. I'm an artist. That is what I do. So not being able to put my art out into the world in the way that I would like, which is, you sharing with people on social media, that all affects you and your self-worth and your identity and your day-to-day. Everything's affected by that.
Was there any specific comment that really, like, was like a knife in the back?
There were so many, so many. A lot of them I put on they're in my show. I highlight them. So, I mean, a lot of them are kind of the same as well. A lot of people say the same things. Seeing the video, people made videos talking about me. There are hundreds and hundreds of videos commenting on my behavior. A lot of people called me a cunt. That word came
Yeah.
up a lot. And even women, they were coming from other women too. But I think being like any type of stalking behavior, anytime where people found really like, that the concept of doxing, right?
I don't think I've heard of it.
Doxing, when people find like your place of work and your street address and
Yep.
right. So when that type of stuff happens over a silly little video, you're like, "Wait, what's going on? This is actually bigger than a little bit of than some cyberbullying and online harassment." If it leaves the page, so to speak, if it leaves that universe and comes that to me that was more concerning than anything anyone said
Yeah.
was if my physical safety or my family's physical safety is at risk from this video, it's gone too far. It
Yeah,
needs to
when
stop.
when I was running for school board, I talked about this in a few episodes. So I wasn't the target of the main attack. It was my friend Elizabeth. And what they did is there's a member of the school board who didn't want her on the board and didn't want me either because the board likes to control everything. So they came up with a fake post and they attached it to a different post, and they said it was a Facebook comment, even though they made it look like two face. It didn't make sense. That's horrible Photoshop. And the lady who made it up is supposedly an artist who made a really bad Photoshop copy, but people went with it, and she experienced stalking too. They knew where she worked, they knew what time she was at work. They were typing in the comments. People were like, "Oh my gosh, she drives this." It's like these people are insane, and so I felt totally bad, and I was getting hit too, not as hard as she was, but you do feel like the whole world is going after you. Now for us in Mankato, Minnesota, is maybe like 500 people. But when it comes at you all at once, it feels like everybody. And the person who starts this whole thing obviously has a personality disorder. Because when I talk to a few people about this person, they go, "Yeah, this person has to feel like, what's the term? They have to feel like, not affirmed, but they have to have, like, their feelings, like, acknowledged. They need to feel acknowledged all the time. So if they don't feel acknowledged, they'll do things to feel acknowledged. I don't know. But and this last episode before yours comes out, this lady told me it was like a personality disorder these people have. But
Mm,
but for your case though, you had it was not just your town, it was a global.
yeah,
Did you
global.
have any friends stick up for you? I try to go after these people. I mean, I don't know how you would, first of all, with all those comments, but anybody in your corner.
Yeah, I did not. I think that if I may speak so boldly as to say that this was sort of before a lot of these bigger, like viral attack moments. Like there weren't that, this was in what, 2018, 2019, 2019, I think.
It's 5 years
And
ago,
and
so
I
yeah,
know, but
2019.
it's interesting, but it's like I feel like it was kind of before, like now we see this all the time.
Yeah,
And this happens a lot more now, and a lot more people have gone through this, but I didn't totally at the time, it didn't seem, it kind of happened and I didn't have people to sort of look to be like, oh well, I remember when they went through this, like meaning on in like a public figure type way, like or this person. I feel like now, like even just the cast of Love is Blind, like so many people have from that cast has gone through similar experiences. And this was a lot. I feel like we've, as a society, grown, like in the last 5 years, this just is like rapid fire, like happened more and more and more. But when this was happening to me, I didn't really have resources or ways to like mitigate this. Like
yeah,
how do you, like, what does the aftercare look like? Like what do you do in these situations? That's part of why I want to speak out about it, because what do you do? Like where can people go? Where can you turn to? Who can you talk to? What what are the ways in which we can resolve this with the person, like what, how? And I spent time and energy trying to find the resources. Is it a lawyer? Like, you know, who handles this kind of thing? Especially because if you're not a celebrity, if you're just a person, like I was just I wasn't famous and so we don't necessarily even know what's available to us. But I'm still asking, like,
yeah,
what are the protocols for this, for someone who deals with this? How can we make that available to everyone? Can there be a team? What can we do? Because I didn't have people in my corner, so to speak, and I didn't know what to do. And if you feel helpless, you feel alone, it pushes you more into that isolation. It affects you even more. I started to get paranoid, insecure. People were stopping me wherever I went. I was in the bathroom at a theater in New York. Someone spoke to me in a bathroom stall. I went to dinner. So I was in North Carolina and then I was in London. I mean, anywhere I went, people were stopping me.
yeah,
And it's sort of like that overnight fame also
yeah.
that is like just not a lot of people have gone through, and it's a really unique experience.
I think well, I think there might be more people that have gone through it than what we know about. I think what there needs
Yeah.
to be done is there needs to be laws
Yes.
against this because when I was running for school board, just because so since you put yourself out there publicly, people can say whatever they want to you without getting reprimanded for it because there's no law saying they can't do that. I mean, we see it on the news with politics. They can say whatever they want about somebody. Too bad. What people are forgetting is that we're forgetting that about sorry, we're forgetting that that person is a human being,
Mm,
and we're just labeling them as the president or an actor, but we forget, like, this person is a human being with feelings, and
mhm,
how would we handle this if this was our kid getting picked
mm,
on? Would we want other kids doing what we're doing to adults? And I think people just they forget about humanity altogether and they feel bad about themselves and you just happen to be the butt of the joke that day, and if they make a comment and more people like that comment, they feel good about themselves, like they accomplished something.
mm,
I saw that in my own town, my small community, during school board elections, and looking at the comments on your page, people will say something really funny and stupid, but they get likes and people keep feeding into that, not realizing the hurt that's doing to you personally on a personal level. It's like, hey, I just signed up to play a game. We were told to find the person who is a meat eater. And honestly, if it wasn't for your character on that show, that wouldn't be a good episode because you're the only one, at least how they edited it, you're the only one, and you had some good comebacks. It was a TV show. Like when that guy went to Taco Bell, whatever, like Taco Bell's not vegan or Honey's not vegan. Yeah, that's funny. That's okay. Who cares? Who cares? Just like for me when I was running for school board, I want to help, put more anti-bullying procedures, policies in place.
Mm.
But the school doesn't want that. People don't want that. They just want to attack, 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 attack. But it's a shame because people who do good in life, who wants to do good in life, they face this stuff. You get politicians who are probably truly good, what they're going to do for us, but I feel like we got people because of the party sides, whatever. We're just going to attack them because they may have one belief different than us, which is totally unfair.
Mm.
If you guys, I'll post a link to that YouTube video on this show. Reality, I did not see any. These comments didn't make sense. But to me, it sounds like somebody started it and they have to say, hey, go comment this. Because if you don't read the comments first, you watch the show and you're just a strong competitor. That's all I see. The bullying doesn't make sense why that happened, but it's there. You
Mhm.
read it. So I don't know if you had someone jealous around you that maybe pushed it because maybe you got the job they didn't. I don't know, but it just seems really weird that it went that direction.
Yeah, so what I can say that we investigated in my show, and first of all, I want to answer that, but I also kind of want to just go back to what you just shared before this too. It's like, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean it there's a depersonalization almost that happens when you're like put someone as a title, like teacher, professor, like it takes the humanity almost away. It almost makes like the comments and the people making the comments are like, oh, well, it's this thing. It's not my friend, it's a depersonalization. So I just wanted to say that because it
Yeah.
makes it slightly like easier. But in terms of jealousy or whatever created this, so my director and I, we had to investigate a bit to create the show Villainera about my experience. And in Villainera, we found a clip where we're curious, right? We don't totally know what the truth is, but we do know that the person who seemed to be at the expense of my quote unquote bullying, right? That people say I was being a bully towards this other cast member, towards this other contestant, that person actually got promoted because of this video and they became an editor. I don't know what their position is now or what they do within the company, but I do know that they say it in one of the videos that they were an editor. We don't know if did they have say in editing this
Yeah.
video? And did that, because then they look like a victim and I look like a bully, like, was that part of it's just a question, like, we're curious
Yeah.
about it.
The
Did that
the bullying
yeah,
part doesn't make sense though, because you weren't trying to hurt anybody. You were trying to you're trying to see who is lying about being a vegan. It's
yes,
no different than a police officer interrogating some suspects. You may not have done the crime, but you're going to ask them hard questions to find out who's telling the truth.
right.
You played the game show as you were instructed to play. So t the bullying part threw me off. Once I watched the video first, went through and read some of the comments, I'm like, "It doesn't make sense." It's like, to
Mm,
me, looking at to me as somebody close to you maybe from a past, whatever, just hash out some shit. I don't know. It just
mm,
it to me, look, I didn't see any bullying on there. It's no different than any other reality TV show that you watch. There's always somebody who's gonna be asking the questions.
right.
Whatever, maybe they did make you look out to be like the villain. Okay, it's a game show. Still, the whole
Yeah,
point is it's a game show. The job is to figure it out. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah, if you ever find out how it started, it's just, you know, was it Jubilee? Not was it the Jubilee started because they just gets more because the more engagement you get on that page, the better it
right.
helps
That was
them.
Right, exactly, right.
I know when I edit my podcast, I try to, if I post clips, I try to post good clips, not tell a full story, but just because I want people to listen, but just
Right.
enough so they come back to it. I mean, that's how previews for movies work. If you ever go see a preview for a movie, like, dang it, the preview is better than the movie. That's editing. That's just how it works. But
Yeah.
it gets you to watch it. So it's yeah, I just don't. I can see where you caught off guard. I don't see how you got bullied. I don't. Your personality was fine. I mean, they at first I thought maybe you were the meat eater because they kind of made you kind of defensive, like, well, that's not honey, or honey's not vegan, or you're like, well, maybe essentially maybe you're the meat eater and you don't want to be caught, so you have to play the role to blame everybody else that they're paying,
It's
so
funny
I
because
never
they
saw it.
oh, thank you for saying well, I mean, it's funny because so Jalen, who was the mole, he was actually saying all kinds of stuff. Again, they cut out everything he said. He had these long we talk about it in the show. He had these incredible monologues and he would go off on all these riffs and he would talk about all these things and he was trying to distract us by talking so much. He says it in one of the videos that they posted, like where he was like, I was just talking all the time. So if I talked this much, there wouldn't be moments so that was part of my response and reaction was to Jalen. Why was I going in so hard? It's because I was like, let's stop this guy. We got to ask
Yeah,
because he did his job right. Like he did a good job. He threw me off because I was like, okay, he's taking up too much time. I even say that I think in the video. I'm like, he's taking up
yeah.
so much time. How am I going to find out who it is if he's talking the whole time? And that was the whole point, and that was the game. But you don't see that. They took all of that out.
Yeah, people forget it's the power of editing. If you can, I always call them quick edits in my podcast, or I started editing school board videos of my local town, and I do a lot of quick edits. Well, one, I got 2 minutes to show all this stuff, but I got a lot of quick edits, so it may appear to be this person is very aggressive, where there could have been a long pause, but
Right.
again, I only got so much time. I have to cut these pauses out, so it comes off like they interrupted the person or whatnot. It's just really tight edits. But
Mm.
I don't think people can see that whole picture. They're just like, "Oh, Erin's rude. She's a bully." It's like, you're playing a game. Come on. I'm lost for words. I don't know what to say about it. I just don't know how that
Mm,
bullying happened. But
mm.
Star, what would be your advice to people that may be experiencing cyberbullying?
Wow. That's a great question. I mean, I just don't let it keep you from doing what you love. And don't let it keep you from your life and your heart and your light and your goodness. Like take space, take care of yourself, but don't give up. I basically paused my life for 5 years. Not entirely. I was doing other things and I was doing good work in the world, but my spirit, my inner joy, my light, my playfulness, my happiness was really changed. And I just took it so hard. I just took it out on myself. And I wouldn't want anyone else to go through that, to be honest. Like, I would hope that people can take care of themselves, get the help that they need, and keep going. Like, the best revenge, right, is just don't stop. Like, keep
Yeah.
showing up.
I think that's the whole goal, is they don't want you to win at life. They want to keep you down. I mean,
Hmm.
with what I experienced with the school board stuff, they didn't want us to win. And what's funny is the lady who they targeted won the school board election, which was like, ha, F you. Basically,
Right.
you try to keep her down and she ended up winning anyways. Because the problem, well, with elections, it's name recognition. You don't ever want to give someone name recognition in an election. That's just stupid. But that just goes to how dumb some people can be. They don't think of that. Like, wait a minute, we're dropping her name a lot. This maybe, but anyways, it's always good to see people that go through this win. And it sounds like, your life now turning around. Tell us about what you're doing these days.
Thank you. So, right now, I've been writing a lot of poetry, and my intention with that is to publish a poetry book. So, I would love to work with a literary agent and a publisher and publish my book. And the reason for that is because my book, originally, that I had self published and put on Amazon, during this process, it got bombed and hated. And, I was bullied on my book page. which then stopped me, right? Which is why my advice is like, don't let that stop you.
Yeah.
Like, because I was performing regularly. I was sharing my book. I was selling my book. And anyway, so it's sort of in my process of reclaiming. It's like reclaiming my poetry is a big thing for me right now. And then the other thing that I'm doing is my show Villainera, which is about my experience going viral
Yeah.
and how that affected me and how my life changed over the last 5 years. I tell my entire story. It's a comedy, it's a one woman show. I use multimedia, I use real comments, real footage. It's super fun. I play weird, zany characters. I do some of my stand up in there. Um, it's such a fun show. It's with a lot of heart, and I'm doing that show is coming up. So I took it to Edinburgh Fringe last year. I took it off Broadway for a bit in New York, a theater that was preparing me to take it to the Fringe. I went to UCB. We've been touring it a little bit, but now it's going to London in June. So June 8th and 9th at Bread and Roses Theater. I'm bringing my show there. And I just hope I can continue to share the show with people.
Yeah.
It seems to really like hit for people.
Star, if people want to find you, follow you on social media again, how can they do
Yeah.
that?
Just opened up my social media account a couple of days ago, seriously. So
Awesome.
so Starstone Speaks on Instagram, but just know, like, if you're gonna try to come for me, like, you will get blocked. I have a team of people I work with, and so there's no not gonna work this time around.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I have support this time with my account, but my account is there for to share my work and, to share an advocacy for anti-bullying. It's a positive account, a positive place where if you resonate with my story and you want to support me, please come join me and see what I have going on, see how you can support me on there. And if you have a story like mine and you want to share it, I want to start a community more than anything for people to feel like they free to, to share their story with me. Honestly, that's part of why I'm doing my show is I hope more and more people can share and we can find solutions to this. And the other place you can find me is out on my website starstonespeaks.com. I haven't opened up the contact form yet there because when I had my contact form and my information available for people, people really took advantage of that, as you can imagine. So, but yeah, but what I have going on is either going to be on Instagram or it's going to be on my website. Yeah, I hope to share my story as much as I can and help more
Yeah.
people.
I've seen some of your clips on your website and your content's pretty darn funny. It's really great. I don't know if I'll recommend my kids watching it, but
Oh, no. Yeah, some
it's
of it's adult
it's
adult.
really funny, and I think people can relate to that. It's perfect. So,
Thanks.
Star, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And for myself, you can always find us at our very own website, which is www.breakingbullying.com. You can also reach out to us at our email address. If you have a story of your own bullying to share, or for whatever reason you want to get a hold of us, our email address is breakbulliinghere@gmail.com. If you're a victim of bullying and you don't know where to turn, there is online resources to help you. The first is the government's very own anti-bullying website, and the address is www.stopbullying.gov. If you have had thoughts of suicide or of self-harm, we implore you to stop. Reach out to the National Suicide Hotline. That number is very simple. It's 988. I'm Tim Flynn, and thank you for listening, and we will be back next week to continue the conversation to break the silence on bullying.